Welcome, everyone, to episode 43 of the Snapcast podcasts with your hosts, Brad O'Brien and Mike Cooley. So, we're cracking some off here. You can see Brad cracking one off. I got one
That's
going.
not a euphemism for those of you that are listening to the audio version of the podcast.
Yeah, I think he tried to put it up in the microphone so you guys could hear the audio of him cracking a beer, which that is some next level stuff right there. Like, thanks for doing that.
No problem.
You know what I mean? Now, with our listeners, the straight listeners, will really feel like they're in this experience. Well, I can tell you this, guys. We've got some stuff to talk about today. But first, some upkeep. Pun completely intended.
Nicely done.
This is a Magic the Gathering podcast where we talk about Magic and a whole bunch of Magic-related things. It's geared towards the competitive Magic player with a casual interest in finance.
MTG Finance.
Or really finance in general. We're going to talk about some stuff today that might make you wonder. So stay tuned, man. This is going to be interesting. But you know what we ought to start talking about, because this is on everybody's tongues right now, on everybody's minds. They're all thinking about this. They're all talking about this. Some people are happy. I don't know many people that are sad. The bannings. The bannings that just came out in October 12th. It seems like an emergency ban. They just went out there and did a whole bunch of stuff, man, from standard, historic, brawl. Holy.
So last week we talked about the grand finals that were happening, the sort of replacement for Worlds that aired on Arena last weekend, and we talked about the 70% plus metagame share that was friggin' Omnath.
I think we had a whole 5-minute segment where we were laughing at the people that weren't running Omnath and being like, what's this guy thinking? Like, what's he doing? Is he smart, or is he just trying to have fun at the grand finals? Like, what's he doing? It was a tough call, man. It was like you had to run Omnath in that tournament, I feel like, to have a chance. It was rough.
So, funny story, I heard that before they had even announced before they announced the announcement, which is a total WotC thing to do, there was a leak of the page or something that people knew basically by Sunday morning that there was going to be a BNR on Monday.
Ooh. Did they see what it was? Did they know the cards that were going to get the hammer?
I mean, who didn't know?
Right. I mean, everybody called Omnath, but there was a couple others I was kind of surprised about.
So Omnath Locus of Creation is banned in Standard. We were talking about that in the week before the set went to paper.
Oh, for sure. For sure. I mean, even in that video, you remember that video that Kawish sent us and we shared on here? Like, he just showed us. He's like, by the way, Standard is broken. And he couldn't have been more right. He went turn 3, just teed off on people. And I was like, is Standard a turn 4 format now? Like, or turn 3 at that? Like, this is kind of ridiculous.
I need to rethink my modern deck if Standard is going off on turn 4.
But yeah, so...
Not to say that we were like a special podcast or prescient in any way. Everybody was saying Omnath needs to be banned. We had our conversations on what we thought they would ban from that deck.
Yep.
And they banned Uro.
As always, I called the wrong thing. You know, whenever I suggest a card is going to get banned, like, invest in that card, because it's probably not going to. But
and then that
I
card
had picked the Lotus Cobra, by the way.
Yeah, that card still hasn't been banned.
Yeah, that's I mean, it just seems to me like, you know, when you think about the things that they shouldn't do, right? Like, when you think about things WotC shouldn't do anymore, printing double mana cards is probably one of them. Like, it's never really led to great things. I mean, it's led to great things, but it hasn't really led to many good feelings from your opponent when, you cast a double mana spell on them, especially turn 2 and turn 3, you just tee off with it. And that's why I thought for sure Lotus Cobra would be banned. But at the same time, man, they got to cut that stuff out. I still feel like there's a lot of merit to that Lotus Cobra, and we just haven't seen it yet.
They printed a land that for 1 mana kills it. I want to play in a format where having a little bit of removal played at the right time can make or break a game. That was not the case with Uro or Omnath. I think that Lotus Cobra will still allow people to get ahead a little bit, and then you might be able to still come back. Like somebody can play a Lotus Cobra on turn 3 and then play their land and play another 2-drop and not crush the game. You're not in a place where you're never coming back. I could be wrong. I didn't play with Lotus Cobra when it was in standard the last time, but I feel like it's a fairer card than either Uro or Omnath.
That makes sense because the latter two can't really be interacted with a lot of removal. And, you know, I think, you have a good point there that, you know, interacting at a very good time and, you know, relying on your timing in Magic is kind of what the game's all about.
Yeah.
You know, but this is what I remember. So I played Arena for the first time in a long time about a week ago.
Nice.
And I played it on my buddy's account who's like decked out. He has all of the shit you'd ever want. And I remember I played, I want to say 3 games, and I was like, yeah, this is stupid. And then I just quit. I was like, I don't want to play another game of Standard. And he's just like, what are you talking about? It's really good. I was like, everybody's running a control deck and everybody's running Omnath. I was like, this is the least fun I've ever had playing, Standard since I've downloaded Arena. I was like, this is just not fun. Like, especially, I mean, granted, I was coming back. I hadn't played Arena, like I said, in a little while. And I was coming back not necessarily knowing the interactions of a lot of stuff. I don't think that hurt me too much because I'm the player that you'll see him like reading the very common card that everybody plays. I'll stop and read it and be like, wonder what he can do with this. What's he trying to do? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah, but either way, like it was very unfun. I will say that. So I could see Omnath getting banned for sure.
It was... So right off the bat, the 2 cards that we're talking about, a 3-mana 6/6 and a 4-mana 4/4, that both replace themselves immediately. Hi-ho Silver and Brad. What's up, Tech 4? I was just going to say, talk about those cards that Mike has to read when they come up on the screen. Tech 4 put up a video on our channel of him playing this fun mono Blue Devotion combo deck. That there's a shitload of readers in that deck. Cards that I didn't realize that were in Throne of Eldraine that are super powerful. Did you know that there's a 1/2 flyer with flash that gives your opponent's creature -X/-O based on your devotion? I had no idea.
Yeah. Well, you're probably gonna see more of that stuff. I think Andy is right in the right pocket of deck design right now because breaking the meta before was just like how to break Omnath or how to break Uro. You can't.
Right.
Like you can't bust those guys up. They're gonna win a lot of the times. Like, you know, but now this is what Andy's gonna thrive on. So I think you're gonna see more of this. Like cards popping up that like Andy has known are good for a long time.
Yeah.
That you weren't focusing on because all you see was Omnath and Uro.
Well, and that's it. So will this change result in a more diverse metagame? So one of the things that I will say is 2 other cards were banned out of Standard. And I would classify both of these as the Reflector Mage bans.
Yep.
You know what I mean by that?
The Reflector Mage, you mean like the reasoning behind it?
Yep.
Yeah. So Reflector Mage banned because it's just unfun to play against, and I mean that's usually the underlying reason why they ban a card.
Well, and I'm trying to think of what else was banned in that format. When I hear people use that as a catchphrase, the Reflector Mage banning is sort of like, this was the best deck, so we banned that. I think it was red cards. I think this was what was the red card at the time that was banned? And it was like, wow, they banned a red card.
Yep, I know what you're talking about.
What am I thinking of? I'm waiting for Tech 4 to chime in. He already corrected me that flash flyer is actually a 1/3. But what I'm getting at is, once they banned Omnath, something else is going to be the obvious next best deck. And so you're setting yourself up for a bunch more complaints. If your format was Omnath versus XYZ, in this case, 4-color adventures, or even Gruul adventures, once you take Omnath out, you just have a new boss.
That's true. That's a good point.
The king is dead. Long live the king. There's going to be somebody that's going to step up and fill that void.
Now you've got Joffrey running the throne.
Well, and so
you thought you hated your king before.
It's interesting because Escape to the Wilds was a weird one, but Lucky Clover was the card that they banned out of the Adventures deck, which I think is great because that was a super powerful card. People did not really give that the appreciation it deserved. I have another 2-mana artifact to talk about later that I feel the same way about. But when you go Lucky Clover on 2 and then double Brazen Borrower on 3 or double Stomp on 3.
Yeah. Here, we'll show you what we're talking about. I mean, just in case, for whatever reason, you had no idea what Lucky Clover did, this is what it does. It's a 2-mana artifact. Whenever you cast an adventure, instant, or sorcery spell, copy it. You may choose new targets for the copy. So whenever you cast one of your creatures, like one of your adventure creatures, they go off on this instant or sorcery adventure, copy it. And you may choose new targets for it. So like Brad was talking about, can you imagine getting like this on turn 2, turn 3, double Brazen Borrower? Come on.
You set back your opponent's board. If you were on the play, like they're not coming back from that.
Yeah, it's over. It's over. Like it's so bad. Especially like, I mean, insert deck here that puts permanents onto the battlefield. You're done. That's it. You just got set back 2 turns.
Like, Brazen Borrower stuff is nuts.
Yeah,
no
really
doubt,
is, man. It really is. What do you think of this ban though? Escape to the Wilds was the other card that was banned. What do you think of this one? Why do you think they banned this one?
I don't know. So you were talking about mana doublers. This is like a goddamn hand doubler.
Yeah.
Draw 5, exactly. Exile the top 5 cards of your library. Your opponent can't interact with them. They can't thought erasure you or whatever, mind rot you, whatever the effect is in standard. You may play cards exiled this way until the end of your next turn. You may play an additional land. So at this point, you have at least 5 mana in play. You're going to have 6 mana in play, and you're going to have a fresh grip. In red-green, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, and another thing that I think is pretty clutch here is that they're kind of admitting that green is a little overpowered right now. Like, and I personally think that's why Escape to the Wilds was banned, because they're kind of conceding that, like, yeah, green's a little overpowered. Like, we might have gone a little too much. Like, I don't think they wanted to ban Lotus Cobra, and I'm glad that you said this, Tech 4. Like, it made it so you could always cast all of them when you had Omnath and Lotus Cobra. Lotus Cobra is far more broken right now in Standard than I think people want to admit. You know what I mean? And I was at first surprised that they banned Escape to the Wilds over Lotus Cobra. But I guess it makes sense because they might be heading in this direction where, maybe the future league, maybe they're listening to them now. Maybe they have listened to our podcast and are like, we're going to listen to these guys. Maybe the future league is like, dude, chill out on green. All your green payoff spells, like, stop printing them. You know what I mean?
I don't think that's it.
You don't think so?
I'm afraid that's not it.
I mean, I don't know. Like, you still have payoff spells, but like that right there, the reason why that payoff spell is special in particular is because you can splash green.
Yep.
You can splash green, and it gives you card advantage and ramp. Like so it's independent of what your deck actually does. It just gives you the card advantage to do what your deck does with more cards in it.
Well, that's what Tech 4 commented, that Lotus Cobra and Omnath made sure that when you played Escape to the Wilds, you could play all those cards.
Right.
But with Omnath being out of the format, why did they ban it? I think it was just a protection valve. What I think is interesting is they went so far as to suspend Omnath in Historic.
So can you explain this to me? Because as someone who is not a huge Historic player, what does suspended mean?
It's on the bench. It's on the bench for now.
Okay.
they're going to assess whether or not it needs to stay officially banned.
So it's banned. You can't use it. But
Can't use it, but you haven't gotten your wild cards replaced yet.
Okay. So is there a how should I say this? Is there a like legal disclaimer where it's like if we haven't decided by this time it is unbanned?
Not that I've ever heard.
That I feel like they should do that, man. Like you can't just suspend something.
So here's the thing. Teferi Time Raveler was suspended, now is officially banned.
Okay.
Wilderness Reclamation was suspended, now is officially banned. Burning Tree Emissary was suspended, now is unsuspended. So they have had a few of these where they've said, okay, actually we think that what the format's about right now, this card is fair.
You see, it just reminds me of like, think back in high school, if you're a shit kid like me getting suspended and always worrying about getting expelled.
You wanted to know all the rules.
Yeah, you're just like, I feel like that's what they're doing. It's like they're putting them in detention, suspension, and it's just like, this is a bad boy regardless. Like, you know what I mean? You're kind of conceding this one right here is a bad seed, So it's like, I just don't get that. Like, why not? I mean, you're WotC. I'm not holding it against you if you ban a card and then next month you're like, yeah, by the way, we messed up. We're unbanning that. Just say it's banned or not. Like, and now I have to pay attention to this word over here, like unsuspended, suspended. Like, you used to just be like, this is just me being lazy, but I'd go down through and look and be like, holy crap, all of these cards, I know they're either banned or not. Something changed about them, and now it's like we're thinking about banning this card, but in the meantime, we've banned it. Like, it just seems so weird to me.
I think that's them experimenting with the options of a predominantly digital platform. So Moto is a pure representation of the paper game, in theory. Mm-hmm. And we'll talk more about that how it replicates the paper game in many ways, probably later on today. But Arena is a pure digital client with no trading, no secondary market of any kind. They control every card that exists on there. But if you have copies of a card and they're going to take that away from you, they have to give you something back. And so think about Golgari Grave Troll, banned in Modern, right? Was it Golgari Grave Troll? What's the big dredger?
Yeah, Golgari Grave Troll. Right. It's the 6er.
Then they said, okay, you know what? We're gonna unban that. We think it's safe now. A bunch of people started playing Dredge. A bunch of people bought. Not only did they get Golgari Grave Trolls, which aren't necessarily expensive, but they got the whole Dredge deck. And then WotC said, whoa, wait a minute. That was a terrible idea. We're gonna ban that Grave Troll on you again. Get effed.
Yeah.
On Arena, they can experiment with, we think this is unhealthy for the format. We're going to make this not legal for play and look at the format. Now, there might be one of these, like, it's a 30-day window or a 60-day window, and I'm just ignorant of it because I don't care that much to know. Yep. Sorry, your podcast host just admitted that they don't care that much to know.
It's like as soon as they remove it, it's dead to me.
Right. I don't... As soon as I can't play it, I don't care.
Right.
If they say that I can play it again, great, I'll care. If they say they've decided it's not healthy for the format and they want to suspend it, give me my wild cards back.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go blow them on some other crappy card that either isn't going to see play or is going to get banned.
Yeah. So how do you feel about Teferi Time Raveler, them deciding this definitely needs a ban? It's gone from Historic. Thoughts on that?
The king is dead.
The king is dead. We were talking about this when they printed it. Do you remember we were talking specifically about Picard and specifically about, I remember I was playing Maelstrom Wanderer in Commander and I was just like, dude, you know that there's cards out there that hose this, right? I was like, yeah. I know it's hard to deal with, but there's like one card printed in the last month that hoses this. Like, Teferi Time Raveler fits right into the colors of your deck. Like, you should just jam that in there and my whole deck's done with. You know what I mean?
It literally says your opponent doesn't play the game of Magic the way Garfield intended.
Right, exactly.
We're going to upset the whole way that
Brian Harnish, what's up, man? Thanks for joining us, brother.
Good to see you, Brian. Yeah. So, how do I feel about Teferi being banned in Historic? Teferi Time Raveler specifically? Get out. Nobody wants you here.
It is pretty weak. Like, it's strong, but it's like when someone plays it on you, you're like, weak. God, like, damn it, dude. I wanted to play a game of Magic, and then you just slam Teferi on the board. It's a real game changer, man. It does stuff that, you shouldn't be able to do against your opponent so passively. You know what I mean? It's sort of like jamming a null rod very early in Vintage. It's like, damn it, I wanted to play Vintage. And Teferi's like, damn it, I wanted to play Magic.
Well, and I would say you're spot on there, and I think that we're going to find over time that more of the static ability planeswalkers are going to come back to haunt us.
Harnish is coming back to Modern.
Yeah.
Once stuff opens up. Oh, man. That's dope, dude. And he's going to be on Boros Burn. I feel like that's in such a good place right now. Ugh. So, I mean, and Modern is like, I just made a joke about Modern, saying that, because Brad, I was saying, dude, shouldn't we suggest people looking into Teferi as a possible investment at this point? He's rotated out, and he just got banned. And, he's just like, he's popping up in Modern. And I said, this is where Modern is the place where good cards go to die. They just kind of wait to get banned in Modern too. And if they don't, great. You know what I mean? They change the format. But like, I feel like Teferi is one of those where it's kind of been like an unsung hero of a lot of decks. And now, look at what you're seeing. We just pulled up a list right now. I've been a huge fan of this deck. How many people from our LGFs has seen me play this deck before? I've loved it ever since I've seen it. And now, guess what they run in the deck Copycat? They run 4 Teferi Time Ravelers. This card's so busted, man. It's so good. Like, you thought that combo was bad before, and here it was. Here was why Copycat was bad before. Because you could interact with it, and it had to be played on your turn. You had to do it then on your turn. Your opponent could interrupt it, and it was just trash. That changes if you have a Teferi on the board. Suddenly the stack's never empty, and your opponent cannot respond to it.
Hi, you can't play Magic. I'm going to combo.
Yeah, I'm just going to combo, and there's nothing you can do about it. That's what Teferi says, man. He's so broken. We've talked about that for a while, and I'm happy that Copycat decks are finally realizing that like this is a busted card that's really, Teferi has reached his modern recognition that he deserves, I think.
Turns off suspended, too.
Yeah.
Oh, is that because there's a trigger for suspend and they can't do anything in response?
Right. That's what I was talking about. Like, so when you cast Maelstrom Wanderer, it goes suspend, or not suspend, but it goes cascade. The same thing works with suspend because, it's casting a spell off from a trigger. So it's saying, here's the trigger. I'm going to cast a spell, but the stack's not empty because when you go to cast the spell off from suspend is still on the stack. So like you cannot cast the spell, suspend resolves, and it's over. Like you chose not to cast it because you couldn't. The stack was not empty.
And he cleared it up for me. Suspend cast cards at instant speed. That just makes it simpler.
Yeah, that's true. Yep.
And the other thing that we are neglecting to say here in a way that this breaks the game is most of the time, if you're plussing your Teferi, you're also playing your sorceries at instant speed, which sorceries are notoriously instants are overcosted, sorceries are undercosted because of the timing restrictions. So a lot of times with Teferi, you can get a great effect at a better time at a lower cost.
Yeah.
Like, is there an instant speed Wrath?
There is with Teferi.
There is with Teferi.
I mean, yeah. And can you just imagine, like, you... Like, those spells, like Bantu's Reckoning or whatnot, where like you have an effect that you've broadcast because it's a sorcery, and I'm not going to untap my lands. But then with Teferi, you don't have to do that until their turn, and you're just like, yeah, I'm going to basically defer the payment of this spell until my turn, And even just simple, non-important interactions like that. I say unimportant interactions, but it's like Teferi makes every interaction far more important because your opponent has a limited window when they can actually interact. So it makes them all very, very important. Instant speed wrath costs 7. That's true. There's one that you have to pay 2 more for if you cast it at the speed of an instant. In a world where sorcery speed wrath costs 4.
The other thing that we would absolutely be remiss to point out at this point is that we're talking about Omnath being banned in Standard. We're talking about Omnath being suspended in Historic. We're looking at the most recent MTGO Modern Challenge. We're looking at this copycat list by Canister as one of the premier Moto grinders.
Yep.
3 Omnath, 2 Uro, 4 Teferi, 4 Renin 6.
God damn, what's Renin 6 at, by the way? What is that? What is the price
money-wise?
$60 still. That thing hasn't moved. I've been waiting for it to go down. I'm like, please go down to like $30. I'll get for you at $30. But Jesus, that card's good.
But this deck is just busted card the deck. Like, okay, Teferi, banned in Historic. Oath of Nissa was banned out of Pioneer and then just put back into Pioneer.
It's a who's who of banned cards.
Standard. Omnath is banned in Standard. Felidar Guardian was banned in Standard.
It is a who's who of banned cards. Renin 6 is banned in Legacy too. Like, that was you might have said that. And
no, I missed that one.
Yeah, Renin 6
I don't give a shit about old formats.
Banned in Legacy. This is a who's who of banned cards right here. Wow, it really is. That's awesome. When I play Modern again, I'm playing Copycat.
4-color ramp. I wonder what's in this.
There can't be any of this card. Oh,
2 Omnaths, 4 Uros.
God. Do you think
4-color ramp?
What do you think the future of Uro is in
Uros.
Modern? Do you think this card's going to catch the axe someday too, or what?
I don't think so.
God, it's so fair, a 6/6 or 3 mana. Dude, what about Creatures Toolbox? Okay, I haven't looked at this deck list, but we're going to look at it live right here. If this has Uro in it, Uro's getting banned. All right, cool. So suspend your thoughts about Uro getting banned. But I was like, if that shows up in a Collected Company deck, which you could technically pull it off the top of your library with Collected Company.
Yep.
Like, you know what I mean? If it shows up here, something's wrong. Like, something's drastically wrong. I'm glad it didn't. I underestimated my favorite format of Modern. Getting banned.
Uh-oh.
Yep.
What happened?
Yeah,
we lost all of our viewers all at once.
No, dude, YouTube does that. There's a lag to it. Yep.
Excellent. So, Creatures Toolbox featuring 2 of Mike's favorite cards.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, I mean 2 copies of one of Mike's favorite cards.
Walking Ballista?
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Surely you're not talking about Ella Damry's Call. But yeah, there's like Uro is weird in Modern. Like I'm so happy that Copycat is a who's who of like banned cards there. That makes me happy.
Because you played that deck.
I'm
missing the lightning bolts though.
You don't need them anymore. What do you need lightning bolts for? If people piss you off, you can just kill them with Uro.
Well, Omnath also 4s them, so I guess that's even better.
Yeah, what do you need lightning bolts for? You're gonna stop my Copycat combo? That's fine. I got
5,
Omnath and Uro. Deal with that.
9.
Yodge. It's true though. It's like those are the cards. You slam those in a deck because this is like every vintage deck that was ever built 10 years ago was exactly this. It was every card that was ever banned anywhere else was chucked into a deck with like 4 exceptions. You know what I mean? And those 4 exceptions is what the deck was named after. You know what I mean? Like Oath of Druids. Oh, it's Oath of Druids because it's got 4 oaths, a couple creatures, and then every banned card that's ever... You know what I mean? That's like what made the difference. This is kind of built around that same spirit, I think, where like you have so many threats to aim at because everything's broken in the deck. Like they call it Copycat because it can win with a combo. But it's like if you're playing against an interactive opponent, more than likely you're just going to get your ass beat with Omnath or like...
Well, right. Everything else in the deck has value regardless.
Yep. It can interact with Path to Exile too.
Blue-white control. Hey, look, we get more Teferi Time Ravelers. You don't get to play on your turn.
Busted.
Well, I guess technically you don't get to play on my turn. Oh, thank
What is
goodness.
your humans deck looking like right here? How has this changed at all? You got nothing. Nothing's changed at all. This deck is
That's interesting because I don't know who PMK is. I'm not familiar with this MTGO grinder. They are running Militia Buglers over the General Kudros that are popular right now.
Well, I mean, that's kind of what happens with humans decks in my experience is people take a card or three out at a time and they'll experiment and then they'll realize that the original shell of it was just better and then they'll throw it back together. Like, it's such a well-designed deck.
I do like that we're on the full 6 Canopy lands.
That is cool. Still running the 2 basics, though.
You got to.
Yeah, Path to Exiles and such, Ghost Quarters.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
I will never support a humans list that runs 3 Thalia Guardian of Thraben, though.
Why not?
It's just too good. Like, it's too good against blue-white control. Like, these 4-color ramp decks that want to Growth Spiral and Lightning Bolt and Mana Leak and Path even. Like, I want to have a Thalia on 2 against almost every deck in the format. And then when they bolt it, like when Brian Harnish bolts it, I want to be able to play the next one.
No, for sure. So, all right. So it makes sense. Like these cards that they're taking out on this ban list for for standard and for various other formats, they're gonna echo through eternity in modern and all of this, which makes me happy. As modern is still my favorite format, but yeah, like I think you're still going to see these cards in these eternal formats. They're just too good, man. They're so good. Which is, we've been barking up to Fairy's Tree for a while, but dude, if there ever was a time to get one, like get them at $10. If they go below that, get them. Like the card's just busted. It's one of the most busted planeswalkers ever printed.
There's some Uro in Legacy.
And Oko. Like speaking of bans.
Oh man, speaking of bans, Oko is owning Legacy right now.
Well, he was kind of the replacement for Ren and 6, like in Canadian Threshold at least. Like he was the card that, like, if you're gonna ban Ren and 6, Oko is almost just as good in a lot of scenarios.
So now we're looking at Legacy lists for those on listening audio only, and there's five top decks in this Legacy from October 13th. Number 1 was Eldrazi Aggro. Canadian Threshold was number 2. 4-color Control was number 3. Canadian Threshold had Uros. 4-color Control has Uros and Omnath.
Man, such a powerful card. Very, very powerful. Dude, I'm just curious, this side tangent right here. Does Reanimator have any new targets?
No.
Does it?
No.
Nope. Same old deck. Chancellor of Anax. It's that stall out version there. Like, just stop what you're doing. Go off faster than you.
Elves running the Allosaurus Shepherd from Jumpstart.
What?
Yeah.
What?
That card is stupid right now.
The Allosaurus Shepherd?
Yeah. Green spells can't be countered. Pay 6 mana. Each elf you control has power and toughness 5/5 and a dinosaur.
How did I miss this card? How did I never know about this card?
Jumpstart, man. You're asleep at the wheel.
I remember saying I didn't like Jumpstart and I kind of gave up on it. Is that really $100 card?
Oh, it really, really is.
You're kidding me.
Because people can't get Jumpstart product.
Wow.
And this is a mythic that shows up every once in a while in an elf.
Jesus Christ, dude. Allosaurus Shepherd. 1/1 for 1 with 76 abilities, which makes sense. I mean, that's the power level these days. Can't be countered. Green spells you control can't be countered. Green spells, not green creature spells. Green spells.
Green spells.
And then he just, what's the card that allows you when it comes into play? The Behemoth. When he comes into play, he pumps all your dudes.
Craterhoof.
Craterhoof Behemoth, yes. He's a Craterhoof Behemoth on a stick. God, that's stupid. It's a 1/1 for 1. 76 abilities. All of them are good.
$100.
Jesus, man.
And I just want to look. We've got time. We're not going anyplace. If we go over to look at Jumpstart as a set, sort by market price, high to low.
Oh, wow. You showing these guys this? Yep.
Yep.
What? So Jumpstart booster box is going for 170, as low as 180. Something doesn't sound right about that.
Market price 170, listed as low as 180.
Goddamn, Allosaurus Shepherd is the most expensive card.
Yep.
Then what is this guy? Bruvac, the...
Huge. He's the mill commander.
If an opponent would mill one or more cards, they mill twice that many cards.
Twice that many.
For 3 mana, not bad.
So with that new 2 mana kicker card, that if you pay the kicker cost, they mill half their library rounded up.
Oh, yeah.
It's an immediate win.
Immediate win. Holy shit.
Oh, hey, look. They actually, Craterhoof is right under it.
They knew what they were doing there.
There's another guy, $40.
Wow.
There are some value cards in that set.
Yeah, that was really good. I can't believe I missed that Allosaurus Shepherd guy. That's really good. Wow. Yeah. So anyways. That band list, insane, man. Like, I think there's a lot of consensus in the community that, like, they have sort of patched and fixed Standard for now.
MTG Pro, kind of, I'm being kind and unkind all at the same time.
Now you're just being an asshole.
Now I'm just being an asshole. Our local friend Slater Claudel did post earlier today that Standard is in a great place, and he plays more Magic probably than anybody that I know recently.
Yeah, man, he's a grinder.
He's a grinder. So one of the things that there was a funny conversation on Facebook about this. He said Standard is as good as it's been in a while. Our local LGS owner said, well, is Standard actually a thing if people can only play it on Arena? What do you think? What do you think about that?
Is Standard only a thing if people can play it on Arena? Yes. Mainly because I never really liked Standard. It's no surprise to most of you. Like, I never really liked Standard. It was just, I found it hard to keep up with. And I know that now, like, I might go a month without playing Arena, but as soon as I get back on, I know I can grind for like a week, and I can practically build any deck I have my sights on. You know what I mean? And that, I just love it. You don't have to pay a dime to be able to craft the cards that you want to be able to play with. So I think that in and of itself makes Standard great. You know what I mean? If you're playing on Arena. The thing that kind of sucks is what you were talking about. Also, one of our viewers, Kawa, was also alluding to this at one point. When they ban cards on Arena in Standard, sure, they'll give you your wild cards. But the thing that people sort of don't think about a lot, but you feel it and you feel shitty about the ban, but you don't know why. Here's why. Because you invested a bunch of rares in that deck too that are probably not good anymore or not playable without the banned card being in the deck. You know what I mean? So I suppose that's the drawback to playing on Arena, but at the same time, it's a similar drawback to playing IRL, man. Like, it's a similar drawback to playing IRL, but it's also, it's just one of those things that I didn't have a damn dime invested in it anyway. So the fact that I can just kind of, F on and F off whenever I want, and I don't have to pay a dime, I love that. I think that is a great part about Arena. Standard in general being great, I think that's yet to be determined. It's still kind of early.
Tech 4, are you still there? Are you guys just silent in the chat? Because I would really love to hear Andy chime in, because his comment on that Facebook post was, our LGS is not bringing in new people when we only host modern events.
Our LGS is not bringing in new people when we only host modern events. That's kind of a good point. I never thought about it like that. Modern is life.
Modern is life for the enfranchised player, the player that's been playing for a few years, the player that has a collection. For somebody that's dabbling,
You should have casual then.
what? Well, is standard casual? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Here's the thing. I will say anecdotally, very small sample size, talking solely about myself here. Every time I've gone in to play standard,
Yeah.
you do see more people in the shop for sure. No more new people in the shop for sure.
New faces.
Yep. And they might not be that great. Sometimes they are. But at the same time, they're having...
You mean skilled or
they might not have...
okay? Or
they don't have the card pool to build the decks that probably their heart desires.
even in standard.
Even in standard. But at the same time, they're having fun with it, and they'll sit there and talk with you about their deck, and that is pretty cool. Like, I think that's what builds a healthy community game store and keeps it new and fresh. So I think that's a good point, man. I think that's a really good point.
And so this is basically the sentence that I was hoping to elicit from Tech 4. For a new player, it's not going to be playable. He loves Modern. It's his favorite format. But for a new player, it's not feasible. Standard is generally what new players are able to do and what brings new players into a community. Without that, you slowly use your community over time.
Yeah.
I think there should be a space in there because I was like, you guys are getting paid for this? You guys get overtime?
Well, no, I see what he's saying. This has historically been the case. This is, and take it from, like, I guess I've always been the enfranchised player because I started playing very early Magic the Gathering, and I always had that deep card pool just from the fact that, like, my stepmom bought me booster packs in 1997 when Urza's Saga was out, and I cracked a Gaia's Cradle from a booster pack and was like, this looks like a cool card. I like the fairy. You know what I mean? Like,
and you still have it.
And I still have it. Like, you know what I mean? There's just that deep card pool from playing for so long that I never understood when people were like, dude, I don't want to play against you in Legacy. And I'm like, dude, why not? Like, I'm not really that good of a player. And it's just like, your cards are worth the hundreds of dollars. And it's like, well, God damn it. Like, I've been collecting. Like, this is what it's all about. But at the same time, that's historically been the thing where standard players, like, they don't want to pay the hundreds and hundreds of dollars for cards. They want to be able to get one of those event decks and go in and play. And I think that's what Andy's saying is, like, it makes it modern. You can't make a modern event deck and expect people to... I mean, you could if you're a wizard. Yeah, you could.
To be fair, that's how I got into Modern.
However, you're still going to need to make some pretty serious modifications to that deck. And at the same time, like, it makes more sense to do that for standard, I should say. Like, people are used to seeing it on
They have done a really
Arena.
good job. I mean, I have the set of them back there from last year with the Challenger decks that WotC put out for standard. But I think my thinking is new players want to be able to walk into the store and crack a pack and take a card out of that and play the game. And they can't do that in Modern.
Yeah.
I mean, not without paying a shitload of money. The competitive standard decks are legit LGS playable. Absolutely. The ones that came out of the box are damn close.
Right.
To legit playable.
Yeah.
I wish that they would get them into players' hands a few months earlier, but that's a whole nother thing. I think that the slowly losing your community over time is actually because there's some inherent attrition.
I mean, it's Magic the Gathering, man. Like, because you have these collectors in the format too. The people like the dirty bastards like you and I who are specking on these cards, buying them, thinking, you got those people too. That's attrition. It brings it into the game.
Well, what I mean is, and I feel like an awful person right now, but there have been lots of great players that have been in our shop for years that I don't see anymore. Who's the guy that's, I want to say he's an older guy, but I only say that because he's about my age. And he was also on Eldrazi for a long time.
Yup.
And work gets too crazy, life gets too crazy. People get older. They have families. The Magic takes a back seat. And so you have this, that's what I mean by attrition, is you have people that are like, okay, I'm actually going to take college seriously for a couple of years, and not spend all of my time and all of my money at this LGS. So you need new players coming in that want to experiment with the game. And I think honestly, Andy's right. Standard or maybe Pioneer, I will give that to Doofer, is what the shop needs to do to invite people in. And I think you're right. You need the scrubs. You need to bring in 100 scrubs to bring in 10 players that are going to stick around.
Right. I remember one of the first ever Magic tournaments I ever went to, it was so weird. It was like in this guy's basement. He just had like a ton of people over to play Magic that he'd like heard play Magic in the community back before like we had LGSs around, many LGSs up here in Maine. Well, one of the worst feelings going there was that it was all vintage play that we were doing. Yikes. And so I had, I still had a deep card pool because I've been playing for a while. But at the same time, these guys were like really good competitive vintage players. And it was like, I remember the first time I ever learned what Chains of Mephistopheles was. It was because someone played some other card that stopped me from drawing extra cards or skipped my draw step or something. And I was like, what? I was like, so am I just like a sitting duck? Like I'm not doing anything? And he's like, yeah, basically.
Yeah, basically you're dead.
Oh, so like, can I just quit? You know what I mean? But that's, you don't want new players to come in and get that feeling.
Yeah.
Where and I can kind of get that with Modern. It's like, yeah, here's in a Modern event deck. Okay, to make this deck what it needs to be, you need to spend $500 more and get yourself 4 Tarmogoyfs, a few fetch lands, and all of this stuff. It's like you can be the nicest group of people that you want to be, but still there's kind of a big financial investment to get into that.
There really, really is. So this is not exactly a call to action or anything that I think we should press the LGS into firing Standard. It's Modern is too fast of a format in my opinion. Well, absolutely, Doofer, you're right. Modern is so fast that by the time a new player has played his first creature, they may have lost the game and not even known it. They could be playing against Brandon Babcock on Ad Naz. Yeah. And he suspended a couple of blooms and he's going to go off on his turn 3 and is totally unopposed and is not even going to know what's happening.
Yeah, it's like that feeling you get. It's like that feeling. I used to get this feeling back in the days when Mox Opal was legal in Modern. I used to play Hardened Scales Affinity. And when my opponent would go turn 1, some card I've never heard of that I know probably isn't going to hurt me, I'm like, this is going to be a shit show. I'm like, I adjusted gears mentally and I was like, okay, be nice to this dude.
Be nice to this poor soul that went Plains, Kithion, and you're like,
all right. Turn 1, artifact land, Mox Opal, 0 drop, Arcbound Ravager, Hardened Scales with another Mox Opal, eat the first Mox Opal, go.
Yes, the collector. So I love this point. We've sort of brought this up over the last as a undercurrent theme in the last few weeks that we've talked. The full art collector's edition foils have made Standard playable cards dirt cheap. So if you wanted an Omnath, yes, they're pretty pricey, but they're not nearly as pricey as those full art ones.
Yeah. And also, Tech 4 is saying that in Standard you kind of have a lot more leeway for cards in your deck. That for example, there was a Red Deck Wins variant not long ago, before Uro was a thing. You know what I mean? That you had to run a lot of 1-drop red dudes. Mm-hmm. Ideally, you would have 4 Fervent Champions.
Cavalcades.
Yeah, you know what I mean? You'd have 4 Fervent Champions. But if you didn't have the wild cards, or you didn't happen to crack those from packs, you could easily throw in a 1/1 haster for red that was just fine for now. You know
good
what I mean?
Enough for now.
Good enough for now.
You're talking from personal experience.
Yeah, oh, absolutely, dude. You wouldn't be shit out of luck if you ran some other common 10-cent card. And I think that's exactly what you're saying. It's a really good point. All you really need is a mostly optimized deck for Standard, and you still pose a threat, which gets new players into the game.
All right. So I'm actually excited. We have a good group of friendly faces in the chat, players that I know that have been playing the game for a few years. Do you all remember Treasure Map? Treasure Map was the 2-mana artifact from Ixalan. Doofer says yes.
Of course. This was printed yesterday.
Craig says yes. 1 mana tap, scry 1, put a landmark counter on Treasure Map, and then there are 3 or more, you flip it over, and you get a brown land.
Yeah.
This card was in every goddamn deck because it was just simple value, and then later on would let you draw cards off of its effect, right?
Are you going to tell me what I think you're going to tell me right now? That this card is just like out of control, spiked up ridiculously more than it ever was?
No.
Okay.
No. I mean, so Treasure Map is not seeing play in Modern. It's seeing a little play in Commander. But there is a card being played in Standard now, and now that the bans have happened, I'm preaching the gospel of Maze Mind Tome, people.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so remember when I was saying I played Standard for a day and I was like, this is unfun? Everybody was running this card. It didn't matter the deck. Like, it didn't matter the deck. It was like, and then my buddy was trying to tell me how to properly use it. I'm like, wait, what? Like, there's some hidden shit that's busted about this card, too? Oh, yeah, there is. Like, this card's busted.
David Doofer's playing it in Grixis control as a 4-of.
It's so, why not? Why not? Like, if you're not playing this card, like, why aren't you? Is the real question. Like, what card are you playing where you could be playing Maze Mind Tome?
On 2, you get to fix your draw a little bit for 4 turns and then gain 4 life.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Well, here's another thing about it, too, is you're just drawing 2 cards a turn for 2 mana. Like, think about that.
Yep.
Like, you drop it out for 2. On turn 2, it's a threat because suddenly it's almost like it's like it's not quite the feeling you get from when your opponent drops out Jace, JTMS.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, shit. Like, if they've got nothing to do next turn, they're drawing 2 cards. And then the turn after that, they can do something and draw 2 cards. And then the turn after that, they're going to draw 2 cards again.
You're saying this is a 2-mana Jace? Doofer's laughing at us.
It's not, like I said, it's not quite the feeling of JTMS, but it's like sort of the same. I feel like when JTMS was a thing, in Standard,
yeah,
people didn't want to concede that he was nasty at first. Like, I feel like, that card draw over time, every turn, especially when you get multiples of these out, it's so demoralizing because card advantage is like no longer a thing you can calculate reasonably at that point.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean by the comparison to Jace. It's like Jace is drawing you 2 cards, but he's brainstorming you into it. When people put this out, they put another one out. It's like you can no longer accurately rely on like the card advantage or really even calculate it from your opponent. Like, it's super weird.
So I think if you're not playing this in your decks right now, you could make an argument that this could go in just about every deck in Standard. I don't know. I think this card is slightly better than the stupid Treasure Map that we were talking about a second ago. Obviously, this is seeing a little bit of Modern play. I think we've talked about this before. I have this in the sideboard or in the wish board of Eldrazi Tron to get with Karn. There's tons of value. Map doesn't gain you life.
Yeah.
It does draw you cards, though.
Yeah. I mean, this gives you that card advantage. It's like its own little artifact-y planeswalker. You know what I mean? If you think about it.
Yep.
Like, it can come out and do something right away. And, it's one of those harder card types to deal with that also, if someone can deal with it, who the hell wants to? Like, you want to save your removal, your counters for whatever the hell is coming, but you can't.
So,
like,
for the record, I'm playing this in colorless, and I don't even know what you'd call it, colorless Ugin. I'm playing this in the, Forgotten Monument. That's probably
it's
the best
far better
way
than 5-color Ugin by the sounds.
the Forgotten Monument deck in the standard, and just making sure that I hit my land drops every turn, so that I can play Forgotten Monument on 5, so that I can play Ugin probably earlier. I'm loving this card.
Yeah, it's really good.
If you look at the price, so I have the price graph up. The price has been pretty consistent since August. What's it going to go down another $1? I mean, maybe at rotation, maybe this set will be affected by rotation. I don't think so.
Yeah. This is also just one of those cards that, it might be the price that it's at right now too, because people don't understand the value of it. It's the type of card that rewards your, it rewards your player that it rewards your good players for making very good choices. You know what I mean? Like, and knowing the exact times to scry instead of draw. You know what I mean? Knowing when to do X, Y, Z with it. It rewards those types of players. And those cards are typically, they spike a little later, because the good players are the only ones using them. And then when everybody else notices that the good players are using them, then they use them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just, I think we're going to see that with this card.
Well, and I just think Standard has been so driven by, well, frankly, 3 Fairy, then to Uro, then to Omnath, that people are just now starting to dig into the value rares. Like we talked actually at the start of the episode talking about Tech 4's wacky deck that he posted on the channel earlier this week, that blue devotion deck. There are so many value cards that have been printed in the last 3 years that I have never even seen.
Yeah. You've been blinded by the Uros and the other blue-green nasty cards.
Well, your only option was to be the evil bastard or play the one thing that beats the evil bastard.
Right. Similar to the days of Affinity in Standard. You guys remember that? There was 2 decks. And
I was just going to say, I don't know if Brian Harnish is still with us, but
yeah, I mean, that's I think we were kind of floating back to that with Omnath being there in the format. So yeah, I'm happy they recognized it right away and didn't try to capitalize on selling packs with Omnath in them. I will say, congrats to you, Wizard. That was a very respectable play on your end.
Ooh. So look forward to next week's, what are we calling this segment now, Andy? Next week's video from Andy is going to...
Breaking the meta.
No, it's not attacking the meta anymore.
Yeah,
it's something new. He's got a new name. It's Wacky Wednesdays.
Yes.
Wacky Wednesdays is going to have Chevelle and Haunted Nightmare. All right. So look out for that next Wednesday.
Word. I'm pumped.
I am pumped. I think that even though I sort of gave Slater a little bit of grief earlier, I think he's right. I think Standard is in a way better place right now. And I think it may be until we get the next set of broken cards.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, time will tell, right? Like, that's what these things do. When one card gets banned, sometimes others pop up, but it's like you got to get rid of the boogeymen. You know what I mean? And some of these cards were that. So now, hopefully, we're going to see a lot more healthy of a Standard format, and I'm excited about it.
I'm excited about it, too. Speaking of getting rid of the boogeyman.
Hey, guys, we want to thank you all for joining us this week and for being so active and talking with us and letting us know. We friggin' love it. So thank you so much. If you guys haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Get us in that algorithm at YouTube and help us out. We would appreciate that, man. We appreciate you guys either way. Thanks for joining us each week. We will see you very soon. Peace.